Hey, hi everyone. Good morning. So, guys, as part of the today's session, let us see how exactly we can define a precondition and as well as a post condition within a program. So, immediately a question that comes in our mind: why we need to define a precondition and a post condition? What is the significance? See, the point here is consider that you are starting your Appium server using a program. So, the mandatory rule is at the end of your execution, it should terminate that particular instance, right? So, the precondition before starting the program itself is starting your Appium server, and the post condition here is to terminate the server instance. If you maintain a precondition and a post condition, right? If there are multiple functions are there, all those functions can have the same preconditions and as well as a post conditions. Ideally, instead of writing the duplicate code, right? So we are gonna maintain it in a single piece itself. Okay, we are gonna maintain it in a single piece. So what I'm doing is whatever the test that we have created in the previous session, and I was naming it as a test basic scenario 2. And here, the preconditions and a post conditions you can define using a setup function. So here, what I'm gonna do right now is def setup. Okay, and this setup is gonna be in a function level. Okay, this is gonna be in a function level. Def setup function. And here, this is gonna be Appium server start. Okay, and like the same way of a setup function, we have a tear down function as well. So def tear down function, and this should apply on a function level itself. So print stop server to stop server. So here we have a two functions defined, and you have a setup and as well as a tear down function. So what it will happen is whenever you execute your test script, right? So whenever you execute your test script, just before executing every function, the content present in the setup will be executed. And after executing that particular function, the content present in that tear down will also be executed. Okay, let me try to run this particular script and check it out how this is gonna work. So when I expand my console here, see basically the tear down stop the Appium server got executed, and the setup basically Appium server start it got executed. So which means that before executing every function, the content present in the setup and the content present in the tear down would be executed. For a better visibility, what I am doing is let me remove this login test. Okay, and now let me try to run this particular test. See here, the logout test got executed. Along with that, the Appium server start and the server stop both got executed successfully. Okay, both got executed successfully. So if you define a setup and as well as a tear down as part of a function level, before executing any function, the content present in this one will be executed. But there is another way that you can define on a module level the setup and a tear down. So what it will happen means whenever you have a define it in a module level, at the very first time it will execute it, at the end it will execute it. So what I'm gonna do right now is dev setup module this time. Okay, this time it should work on a module. So print, maybe I can say db connection start. Okay, def, okay, tear down, and this time it's gonna work on a module level itself. So print close the db connection. Okay, start the db connection and as well as the close the db connection. So at the very first time the db connections will be executed, and at the end this is gonna be executed. Okay, ideally if you wanna execute only once for all the functions, in such a cases you will be going with this particular, okay, you will be going with this particular module level. And here we do have a fixtures basically. Okay, we do have a fixtures, which means instead of writing in this way, you can decorate your test cases in a better visibility with the help of this particular fixtures. So directly you can use PyTest dot fixture, wherein which you can define the scope as a module or a function. So whatever this scenario is there, copy it, paste it with a third reference, and here instead of defining this setup module and all those things, right? So what I am doing right now is maybe let me delete this setup and tear down modules here, and even these things also I deleted it. I have just a function right now, and right now I'm defining setup. So here I no need to follow any names, or I no need to give anything here. So print db connection start. So which is a module level I have seen in the previous test. At the rate pytest dot, I want to use it as a fixer, and this the scope of this particular fixer is a module. So I want to define it in a module level. The setup, I want to define it in a module level. And basically I can use an yield. So yield basically that can be used as a tear down. So yield, I'm just printing close db connection. Okay, I was just using this particular yield db connection. Okay, let us see where are we gonna get it. So yield is equal to the db connection. Okay, so why we are getting the issue here from the yield? So it should be in the new line of a yield, right? It should be within this itself. Why I'm not getting this yield? Let us see. Let's come back to this particular one. Yield. It should work. The yield statement. This is gonna be the expression. You wanna go in this way. Okay. Okay. Let's come back to this particular yield, and then you already have this particular fixer in place, which is the login function. You already have this in this particular place. Okay. Perfect. Yeah, guys, so let us continue here. So the point is we have a defined a particular function which is going to be a scope as a module level, and you have a defined a ale, and this is this particular chunk. So what we are doing right now, we are adding a scope here as a module. And right now I want to define another function like before each function. Okay, so this is what a before each function is. I just want to define another chunk before each function. Okay, what is the significance of this before each function? Maybe print establish connection with iOS driver. Consider that I have defined it, establish a connection with an iOS driver. That's fine. So this is the one which should execute before every function. So at the rate pytest dot fixer, and this scope is gonna be at a function level. This scope is gonna be at a function level. Okay, this scope is gonna be at a function level. And let us see the issue with respect to this yield. I think this is the issue. Yield, okay, print close a DB connection. Okay, print a close a DB connection. Perfectly all right, guys. So I have defined all these things. That's an indentation issue, basically. That's fine. Once we are done with this particular fixes, right? So I need to ask, okay, probably for this particular before each function, even you need to define an yield, right? Basically, print what I want to print, terminate uh, driver connection. Okay, print terminate driver connection. So this yield is precisely for this particular function, and this is gonna be precisely for that particular function. Okay, that's fine. And once you are done up to this particular point, you need to specify this particular function should work on before each function. If you can give this particular name to that, and when I run this particular program, it will be executing that. See, connecting with an iOS driver, terminating with an iOS driver. But even it should go with this particular setup as well. In such a cases, for your function, you can define these two different fixtures that you want to specify and run as and when you have a specify, both the things will be DB connection start, DB connection termination. All the things will be printed down to here. Okay, all the things will be printed down here. Perfectly all right. And the another point that we need to consider here is, Surendra, I don't want to define them within my function name. In such a cases again, we can also use the fixers here. Okay, we can also use that fixers here. So how are we gonna use those fixers? The only thing is, okay, the only thing is, here, this is the function, right? Comment it out this particular function, put it back here. I don't want to use this here. Okay, I don't want to use this here. The only thing that I want to use here is at the rate of PyTest. Okay, at the rate of PyTest dot mark dot here. I want to use my fixers. What is the fixer that I want to use? The setup is the first fixer that I want to use, and the second fixer that I want to use is an before each function. Either I can define these fixtures right after the test name, or you can use it in this particular way as well. So whenever you run your program, the same thing will be executing, and it is printing that information to the console. So this is the way how exactly we can use a fixers in your code, guys. Okay, perfectly all right. In the next session, let us see a simple example with further PyTest significances. Thank you. Bye bye.